Hello everyone and welcome to a review of F.O.R.K, a sort of acronym there for Fox, Owl, Rabbit, Kale. This is a trick-taking game with a difference, and that difference is a food chain. Let's jump in, go over roughly how the game plays, then I'll give you some pros and cons, and just know that this was provided to me by the designer. In F.O.R.K, you're going down that food chain while doing normal trick-taking. But how you're scoring those cards isn't necessarily by winning a trick at the end of it. Because the foxes, well, they're going to eat the owls or the rabbits. The owls are going to eat the rabbits. And the rabbits are always going to be trying to munch on the kale. And you can score kale if it's not been eaten. Let's go into that a little bit deeper. So on a round, one player is going to start off and they're going to sort of play a card face down and say what suit it is. Those suits could be Arctic, desert, mountain or swamp. But of course you could just use the colours and sort of let everyone know. So you've got that sort of option. But you play a card and you'll say this is a swamp card and you're playing it face down. Unless it's a kale and then you do have to reveal it. Everyone going round the table then in a clockwise order will play a card from their hand, hopefully playing a card of the same suit because that's the only way you're going to be able to score points or try and score a point card at the end of the round. If you don't have a card of that suit, you are able to effectively discard a card of a different suit. Once all the cards have been played, you're going to go down in number order of the cards that are in suit. If someone has played a fox, well, it's going to have the choice of eating any of the owls or foxes of that correct suit that have been played. If none have though, or if two foxes have been played in the same round, they get nothing. That's pretty bad because being able to get an owl or a rabbit, that's normally a good number of points, which is indicated on the card. If no foxes have been played, which are wild, well, you're going to move down to the next part of the suit, which is the owls. There's only one of each suit, so it's not going to be played too often, and you effectively then see if any rabbits have been played of the correct suit, and if so, they'll be able to take one of those as a scoring card. And the rabbits do have slightly different points, so you can choose which one's the sort of better value for you. At this point, if there are still any rabbits of the correct suit remaining, they can eat kale of the right suit if it was played. Now, you'll know it was because it has to be played face up if kale is played. Now, there is a slight caveat here that the lowest numbered rabbit, they can actually eat kale of suits outside of the actual one played. And last but not least, if you survived all of that food chain and there's still a correct suited kale in front of you, you can take that and put it into your scoring pile. Unlike other trick-taking games where someone would have sort of won the trick overall, play then just moves clockwise around the table and then that person is starting the next round off, looking at the cards in their hand and choosing one to play face down again, unless it's kale, and revealing the suit that's starting that round off. The game goes until one player has earned their 5th scoring card or every player has run out of cards in their hand. At this point the game is over and it's time to calculate points. Scoring points is pretty simple. For the owls and the rabbits that are in your scoring pile, well, they've got indicated on them the number of points that they're worth. When it comes to kale, well, it's a little different. You simply work out how many kale cards you've got, and looking at the bottom of a kale card, you can then determine how many points that's worth. For example, one kale card is worth only 1 point, but if you manage to have 5 in your scoring pile at the end of the game, remembering you can only have 5 scoring cards in your pile, that's worth 8 points. You work out who has the most points and they're the winner, and that's how you play F.O.R.K. So the obvious thing here is the twist on the trick-taking. It seems like it's going to be quite a complicated thing. Once everyone's played cards, you go down and you work out who's being eaten. You've got no rabbit left because that's been eaten by an owl, so you can't. But actually, in actual fact, it's a super simple thing because you're just going to go down from the highest card to the lowest card. It's very simple. You work out, is there a fox? No. Well, we don't need to worry about that. Is there an owl? Yes, okay, it's going to eat one of the rabbits of the right suit if there is one. And you're kind of hoping at that point that you've got one, but someone else has got one as well, and they eat your, like, one of the other opponent's rabbits. Because then you might be able to score some kale if someone has played it. And different things like that, but it's very simple. You just work down that chain, score, hopefully score a card. If not, you're discarding stuff over to the side, and then you're going again with a different person starting the round. It does seem a little odd in a trick-taking game that actually you don't win tricks, but you are still trying to win a card, and you are playing cards into a trick, which means you don't necessarily have to really know how a normal trick-taking game works. So while there's been a lot of intermediate sort of, I'd almost call them trick-taking games, where they add a twist, and that twist is extra complication, actually in this, a brand new gamer could play this not knowing anything to do about trick-taking and still play the game with relative ease. I really do like the fact that there's that sort of set collection style scoring for Kale. It's one of the hardest things to score because you're playing it face up, and there's often many rabbits in play, so you just have to sort of hope that when you're kaling, someone else is going to be eating the rabbit that wants to munch on your kale. And that's a quite nice sort of thing that you're playing and you're trying to work out how many rabbits of a certain colour are left, or is there the owl, who's played their fox, because everyone starts with one, and that sort of stuff. So that's really cool that you can sort of try and deduce some knowledge and use that to your advantage as the rounds go on. And the fact that Kale isn't just like 1 point, it could be more than 1 point per Kale, it just feels like it's worth actually going for those, even though if you can get an owl or a rabbit, it's going to be worth a lot of points. One thing that I don't like too much is the fact that you only score 5 cards. With the fact that Kale cards, you need 5 of them to score that 8 points, I'd really like it to have had maybe a 6th scoring card, because otherwise, if you're close, you've got 4 Kale and 1 other thing, it just feels like a missed opportunity to get that full scoring for Kale, and often it is therefore more worth going and trying to get a rabbit or an owl because of the points that they'll score. I would have just liked it if there was an extra score, you know, just a chance for more points basically, but it also means that the game doesn't outlast its place on the table. You sort of play a game, you finish, you can shuffle up and go again. I have actually played a game where we, unfortunately incorrectly, didn't stop at that 5 scoring cards, and we still had a good time, although the last few cards did feel a little lucky. But maybe you could play more than just up to that 5th scoring card and still have a good time. I think you could probably get away very easily with 6 or 7 scoring cards and still have a lot of fun. When it comes to the theme, I think it might split a few people. I think some people might have a bit of an issue with like the fox actually eating the rabbit and that's how you're scoring those points. But that is something that happens in nature, so I don't think it should really put people off, but I can see why some people might not like a game themed around it. I do, however, think it's quite an intuitive theme when you think about it. You think of that food chain, it does just kind of make sense. You hear about in nature, a fox will sort of go after an owl or a rabbit. An owl will swoop down and take a baby rabbit, and, well, rabbits eat kale. It just sort of makes sense. So overall, I've really enjoyed F.O.R.K and its twist on trick-taking. You're playing cards into a trick, even if you're not winning a trick. And that food chain, that progression of going down the sort of cards from highest to lowest, it's a really intuitive one that actually, once you've read through the rules and played the first round, it all clicks. So that's great for new players as well as sort of seasoned gamers. A number of games recently that have tried to sort of tweak and change trick-taking have added complexity, and that's not something that I think is needed in the genre. So this twist, not adding complication, making the game still quite simple and easy to play, but being a bit different, I think that works really nicely. There's a good amount for players to try and work out and remember all that owl of that certain type has been played, so my rabbit is a bit safer unless someone's playing a fox. And that sort of opportunity of everyone's got one fox, when are they going to use it? I really do like that, and I've very much enjoyed my plays of F.O.R.K. Let me know what you think of the game if you've had a chance to play it in the comments section below. And if you've not had a chance to play, what sort of grabs you most from the stuff I've spoken to you about in this review? Also, let us know in the comments section below. And until next time, have a fox, owl, rabbit, kale-filled good day.